Good morning, children. I hope all of you are safe and keeping up with your lessons. Today, I am going to explain the poem Granny by Vernon Scannell. This is a poem which illustrates the beautiful and cordial relationship between grandmother and her grandson. Vernon Scannell, the poet, was born in 1922 in Spilsby to a very poor nomadic family. He had been winning boxing titles at school and had been a keen reader from a very early age. Scannell won many poetry awards, and his war poem, such as Walking Wounded, was regarded as among the best. He was one of the most accomplished poets. Now, children, I am going to provide you the stanza-wise explanation of the poem. In the very first stanza of the poem, the poet weaves a deep emotional attachment with his granny when he was living with her for 2 years. He illustrates his granny's love, care, overprotectiveness in such a way which all grandchildren are familiar with. Granny's smile gave the poet a sense of protection from the cold, harsh outside world, like the way a shawl keeps us warm from the bitter cold winter. Just the way the poet remembered the soft nature of Granny towards him, where she never scolded the poet no matter whatever his mistakes be. In the similar way, the poet remembered his granny's signature lavender scent. Now, coming to the second stanza, we find the poet describing Granny as a tall, wide, large, mountainous figure whom he was not afraid of. Rather, he considered Granny's hefty figure as a protective shield between him and his fear. Children, here we see a soft contrast drawn by the poet when he describes Granny. Though a gigantic figure, but gentle, kind, affectionate, ever understanding lady who understood every hope and dream which filled the mind of the small boy, and she acted accordingly. Granny lavishly praised the poet for all his good deeds, but never punished him for his miscreants. In the third stanza, we witness a time lapse, wherein now we see that the poet who was once a little kid has now grown up and is a soldier serving his country in the Second World War. Unfortunately, he was wounded in France and was admitted in a hospital, which eventually happened to be situated in his granny's hometown. The poet did not hesitate to grab the opportune moment to request Granny to meet him by writing her a letter. In the final stanza of the poem, we witness that Granny's unconditional love for the poet couldn't stop her from visiting the wounded poet in the hospital after she received the letter. The poet was in an utter shock, seeing the deterioration of once huge, strong, and healthy Granny into a tiny, frail old lady. It seemed to be a dark day in his life, seeing his Granny in that condition. This change was impossible for the poet to digest. Granny walked through the ward in a very awkward way due to injury or pain to reach the bed where the poet was lying. She, with lot of difficulties and concentration, tried to recognize her small boy. Once she was able to recognize the 8 years old boy in the young soldier. She gave that same heartwarming smile which was etched in the memory of the poet for so many years and which the poet was longing to see. Thus, the dark clouds which clogged the poet's mind disappeared in an instant, and to him the day seemed lovely and bright again. With this, children, I conclude the explanation of this beautiful poem, in which we had seen that no matter how many barriers we face in our relationships, we can never get parted from our loved ones. I hope you all will enjoy the richness of this poem. Children, stay safe and thank you.